Hello and welcome to Cognitions, Speaking the Unspeakable with JP.
And Stacy D.
I am JP Craddock, and that is the one and only Stacy D Love. We are broadcasting remotely on KUAW Radio. The phone number to call into the show is 816-599-6893. Coming up later on the show today, we have our question of the day, which is, should I marry someone even if they don't like my kids? Should I marry someone that my kids don't like? So that's coming up later. Stacy D, what's up? How's everything in your world, Stacy D?
It's going just fine.
Anything interesting that you can actually talk about?
A whole lot of stuff happened interesting, but I can't talk about everything. No, not really. Just been sort of boring. It's been really boring on my end.
Okay. Well, last week, give me your thoughts on this. Last week, we talked about, we was talking about my son and him making it difficult to give him money. And so someone was saying to me, because you got grown kids, so I'm going to ask you a question. Someone was saying to me, well, JP, he's not going to pull it together until you cut him off. Like, you have to cut him off. Now, on a previous show, and for those who missed it, all of our previous shows are on our Facebook page. On a previous show, we talked about how brain development, a person's brain is not fully developed until the age of 25, the prefrontal cortex, okay, which is the area of the brain all up in here that controls decision-making, judgment, assessing right from wrong, good from bad, personality development. And so I'm thinking it wouldn't be fair to cut my kid off at the age of 20. This boy got 5 more years of brain development to go. I think I'm gonna wait till 25 to cut him off, okay? At 25, if you ain't got your rent money, you homeless. Now, what, Stacy D, how old are your kids? Okay, are they over 25 or under 25? Okay, scratch that question.
I don't want to say how old the children are because it might incriminate my age.
Okay, do you have any kids under 25? Between 18 and 25.
Everybody's over 18 except for my gifted daughter. My biological children, all of them are over 25.
When did you cut them off?
Yesterday. Because now you got me feeling bad.
Hey, you cut them off yesterday?
Joe, in all actuality, you never cut off your children. You just do different limits. Like I told King the other day, I'm like, babe, I really like being at home, just King, myself, and Sire. Sire is our baby.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm gonna have to get another job because if somebody gets short on their rent, I'm gonna have to pay the rent because I don't want nobody coming home.
Ooh. Now, I hadn't thought about that. Sometimes when you bail them out, it's for your own sanity.
It's for your own mind.
Because if you don't give them that rent money, they're going to be coming home with all their crap.
And grown people coming back into your home and you're grown, it just don't work out well. Because I had problems when my daughters came back from college. Them being away at school, being grown, doing what they want to do, and then had to come back. And it's still house rules. Yes, I have taken the rain off some, but I still have that rain. There are just certain things that you're just not going to be able to do here in my four walls that you were doing on that campus.
True.
Grown or not grown, I just don't care. Because I even remember when I was in college, JP, and so my husband and I would come home, and as I say, my first husband, we would come home, on spring break, Christmas breaks, and we was just down in Pittsburgh, so it was nothing but an hour and a half drive. And our mothers would be like, "Y'all not sleeping together?" I'd be like, I got a license. They didn't care.
Right.
Because it was their home, and they didn't care that we were married, which is really odd.
Well, yeah, because Nadine and I, when we go see the in-laws, of course, we're allowed to. Well, we old, so we don't.
Yeah, we old. I mean, but we was like 18 and 19. Yeah,
we old and married, so yeah.
Old and married, yes.
Okay, well, I'm hoping that by the age of 25 that he will not only be fully developed in his brain, but also in his bank account. Okay, it's time for...
Good luck.
I know, good luck with that. Okay, it's time for mental health and illness in the news. Stacy D, what you got?
Nothing.
Well, I have something. Okay. You really don't have anything?
These go so long, you guys. If I say something and then he do his, we're never gonna get to the topic of the day.
Then let's go straight to mine. Whatever, Stacy.
So my party can just roll with it. Last week, everyone, I know some people missed us last week because our show did not have audio. And JP and I was saying that we're going to have a safe word for when he get to talking too much. So if you guys can help me figure out a good safe word for JP when he get to going, please put that in the box, or you can email it to us and all of that.
Why are you going to get all these listeners cussed out? That ain't fair what you just did to these people. That ain't even fair what you just did to these people. I don't suggest that y'all
help me out with my safe word, everybody. Help me out with my safe word.
We did have some engineering technical difficulty that we would like to apologize for. Everyone who was not able to hear the show, which would be, I know, everyone on Facebook. But everything's going fine today. I mean, it's remote. So, there's going to be some glitches with remote. We found out, and, we're rolling with it. Okay. Mental health and illness in the news. First story that I want to talk about. Kirk Franklin cursed out his 32-year-old son. And the son secretly recorded Kirk Franklin saying the following.
He just got cussed out again. And I'm going to take your phone from you.
He cussed it
right on there.
He cussed him out. This is what the son uploaded onto social media, was an audio of Kirk Franklin saying, quote, "You need to get your skinny mother bleeping ASS back to the GD, back out the GD way before I put my foot in your ASS. I will break your neck if you ever disrespect me." And then Kirk hung up. Okay, so later, Kirk Franklin issued a public apology for cursing his son out. Here's my thoughts on this. Stacy D, yes. You let me know what your thoughts are. My thoughts are Kirk Franklin must have lost his mind apologizing for something that wasn't anybody's business. This was an exchange. Here, I could see if this was an exchange with a child who was a minor. This was an exchange with a 32-year-old
grown man.
Grown fool. Who did tell Kirk to shut the F up, like he was being disrespectful. And so
I'm surprised Kirk didn't put hands on him.
Well, he
would have put hands on.
He threatened to put his foot somewhere.
I'm coming to choke you.
He threatened to break his neck. He covered all of that. He covered all the bases in the threats, which is why
we need to call. I think we need to put one of my kids on the phone line, because I got some kids that's 32 years old, and let's see what would have happened. Hi, Stacy D kids, it's for y'all. Call in and say what would Stacy D, your mama, would have done to y'all if y'all could like Kirk Franklin's child.
If they told you to shut the F up. Well,
I would probably be in jail because I would have went and got my gun. You're not going to.
Well, Kirk threatened to do some damage. Okay. And then he apologized. My thoughts are, one, this is not child abuse. I could see apologizing if it was child abuse. This is a 32-year-old man. Two, it's nobody's business, because it was a 32-year-old man and it was his son. And why? Because you're famous, why is it everybody's business that you cussed out your kid? Now, one, I have a confession. I am a parent who has made all the same threats to my kids that my mama made to me, which are, I'm going to knock the fire out of you. I'm going to slap you into the middle of next week. You're going to wake up on a Wednesday.
And today's Sunday.
I'm going to slap the taste out of your mouth.
Your mouth.
I
brought you in this world. I'll take you out.
They even teach, because I want to address this from a cultural perspective. I remember in graduate school, a class called Black Families in Therapy. They taught, because Black families oftentimes get hotlined for making these statements by Caucasian caseworkers who take these things literally. And so what they taught in this class is, in Black culture, sometimes parents will say these things. It is not to be taken literally. And anyone who tracks down my two adult sons and asks them, did your father say he was going to knock you into the middle next week? They would say, absolutely. Did he ever knock you into the middle of next week? Which would mean you was unconscious till Wednesday.
And it was
you woke up on Wednesday. That's basically a coma. They would say, no, that never happened. The most my father ever did was snatch me up. That's the only thing that they would be able to say, is that I might have snatched them up, shook them up a little bit, okay? They ain't never been knocked out and unconscious until Wednesday. They can still taste their food, even though they don't always deserve to be able to, but I ain't slapped the taste out of their mouth, okay? And so I think that there's that cultural piece to this, that people are not supposed to take these things literally, because he said he was gonna break the boy's neck. I mean, if you think about it, if your son is 32 years old and cussing you out and still acting a fool, that is not a behavior that began overnight, which means the 32-year-old son has probably been a fool for 22 years, and he still is alive. His neck is not broken, and no one has had to surgically remove Kirk Franklin's foot from his behind. So I don't understand this public apology. He don't owe nobody a public apology.
No, he really shouldn't. But we have to look at society. Society view him as, first of all, he's supposed to be a man from the word, from God. He's a vessel. And it even says in the Bible that we should not put no man on a pedestal. He is a vessel. God gives him the word and the direction, because God can give the word and direction to a bum.
Yes.
So, he's a vessel. And then once again, he's supposed to be a role model. So I guess in his eyes that he should have gave a public apology. Maybe his publicist said that, but I don't think I would have went with my publicist. I would have been like, I would have got on there as like, God, please forgive me for cussing. But
I ain't sorry for taking that.
Honor thy mother and thy father. And he was being disrespectful.
Is Kirk Franklin, is he an actual ordained minister, or is he? I thought he just making music and directing choirs. Is he an actual pastor?
I don't know. I don't know 100%. Maybe some of our listeners can tell us that. Let me get on Google real quick.
Okay.
Google will tell you everything.
Yes. And see, this is why I can't wait until we get our intern for the show, because see, that's what the intern need to be doing, is Googling stuff while we talk about it. But I can understand what you're saying, that the profanity, because he did drop a lot of profanity. And
he did the GD word. Now he shouldn't have done that.
Well, yeah, that's not a term that I ever use. I can understand. I'm not sure that you set a good precedent with your fans or non-fans by issuing a public apology. Yes, that's between him and Jesus that he was cussing, and his 32-year-old son. Okay, so
he was ordained as a minister at 17 years old.
So he's a full-fledged preacher.
At 17.
So that GD, he probably needs to talk to Jesus about that.
Yeah.
Jesus is like, we need to have a conversation because you said GD. Okay, here's the next story. This one is on a much more serious note. I'm sure you're aware that Atlanta experienced the shooting of 8 women. 6 of the 8 women were of Asian descent and were killed. The police have apprehended a suspect, a gentleman, and I use that term very loosely because we on the radio, a gentleman by the name of Robert Long. Couple of things to think about. There has been an increase in violence against Asians since the pandemic started, and you know the reason why.
Wait a minute. I got a funny for you. One of my friends said that her boyfriend won't go, Chinese food. Pandemic.
And you know the reason why? Because an idiot who was leading the nation kept referring to the coronavirus as the China virus. Statistically, hate crimes against Asians have skyrocketed since the pandemic started. And so they're trying to figure out whether or not this played a role in the situation. Here is the question, though. In interviewing the suspect, he stated that he did not kill them because they were Asian. All of them worked at spas, massage parlors, those types of places. And he was saying that he did not kill them because they were Asian. He was shooting and killing out of lust, stemming from a sexual addiction that he has received treatment for in the past. He has a fetish for Asian women. And so what is being debated back and forth on the news right now is, I'm sorry, I'm getting over a cold. What's being debated is officials are still trying to see if they can charge him with a hate crime because they were Asian and they were women. So is it still considered a hate crime? But according to the statutes, it's a hate crime if a person is targeted because of sex or race. But in this instance, when you look at it from a psychological perspective, he was not targeting them in anger he was trying to remove his temptation. A fetish is from the opposite extreme of hating someone because of their race. And so I don't think that they're going to be able to charge him with a hate crime because it was a fetish. It's not a paraphilia because paraphilias are deviant. Deviant fetishes and sexual attractions, like people who have sex with cars and with vending machines and different things like that, or animals and different things. So it wasn't a paraphilia, but it's a fetish. So I don't think this is a hate crime. And my immediate thoughts were to blame Donald Trump. But in this instance, it does not look like this is for a hatred towards Asians, but the statistics on hate crimes against Asians is absolutely through the roof right now.
Yes, it truly is. They are getting it now. And I just want to say to my Asian sister, Foa, hi, Foa. I know you're watching. I love Foa. We have worked together for so many years. Yeah.
I am sincerely hoping that, because we have so much hate in the world as it is, I am hoping that they can get a handle on this, the drastic increase in hate crimes against Asians. It's absolutely horrible. Okay, time for the question of the day. Should I marry someone even if they don't like my kids? Should I marry someone that my kids don't like? Now, Stacy, do you want to take a stab at this first, or you want me to go first?
I'm going to let you go first.
Okay. My answer to this is both yes and no. And it's based on over 20 years of experience in seeing couples and families in this situation. Here's the reason why my answer is both yes and no. If your kids are under the age of 18 and still living at home, no, you don't marry someone who dislikes your children, and you don't marry someone who your children dislike. And the reason why I say that is because I have never seen this go well. This does not go well. The resentment, the animosity, the downright hatred, when people enter into these marriages and the step parent and the kids hate each other, it just spreads through the whole family like a cancer. I have seen this reach such high proportions, just ultimate levels, to the point where even after the death of either the biological parent or the step parent, they are still angry at the funeral. Like, even in adulthood, because I have some families where the kids are no longer kids anymore. They have never been able to work through this. And this is not a cultural issue. I see this in my white families. I see this with my Black families. I see this with like families in general. And the reason why I say that you do not marry someone if your kids are underage that does not like your kids and your kids do not like them is because when we become parents, when we choose to have kids, we are choosing to put them first from birth until adulthood, until they turn 18 and get out of school and transition. No, they got till 25 till their brain is done developing. They need to get out. They can get out at 18, okay? They get out. Okay, all of the decisions that a parent makes is supposed to be passed through a filter of how will this affect my children?
This is true.
Is this in their best interest physically, psychologically, and emotionally? And so in these situations, as I said, I've seen households, it turns into like a living hell when the step parent and the children are at war. But you owe it to your kids because they didn't ask to be born. And so you owe it to them to not bring someone into the house who does not like them. They didn't ask to be born. You don't get to put them in this uncomfortable position. Now, let's talk about the reasons why people do this. Okay, because usually by the time they come to therapy, they've been living in the situation for some years and they have realized, okay, we really need help because I thought that this would get better. The reason why some people move forward is two reasons. One is selfish reasons, which is my kids are going to grow up and move out and be living their own lives, and I'm going to be here alone by myself. So I need to get mine now. And they just gonna have to suck it up and learn to live with him or her in the case where it's a stepmother. So that's one reason why they go into it. And then the other reason that I hear the most is because they believe that it's going to get better. They've been watching episodes of the Brady Bunch. They think they're going to have the Brady Bunch. And I can kind of understand how people can think, well, once we're all living together and they really get to know, their new stepmom or stepdad, and he really gets to know them and it's going to be okay. Unfortunately, it usually does not end up okay just because they're living together. In fact, living together oftentimes exacerbates the problem and they end up hating each other even more. So that's the reason why I'm saying no, if your kids are still kids. Now, my answer is yes to this question if the kids are adults, because then by all means, you get to live your life for yourself. You've raised your kids. And if they don't like the person that you are marrying, you have every right to say, listen, you are grown. You out there dating and marrying who you want to date and marry. I'm dating and marrying who I want to date and marry. It is not going to affect you because you don't live in this house. And so at that point, once you've raised your kids, you have every right to, say, hey, I want to do what's going to make me happy. So those are my thoughts on this. Stacy D, what are your thoughts on because, well, Stacy D, you got married fairly recently. How are things with your kids and your husband? Your kids are grown, so.
And my children are grown. My children understand how much I love King, and they are really grown. And they just want their mother to be happy. They wanted someone to be able to watch over their mother, because and they was out for me getting married to King. They was out for it. My husband's children are younger. Me, I love my boys. I had no problem with my boys. But, sometimes you have that issue with the baby girl thinking that I'm trying to take her spot. And a lot of times that's what happens in relationships too, that the children think that that the significant other is about to take their spot or take their time or take their love from them. And it's not like that. It's enough love to go around, and those are different type of loves also. Now, I do know when I divorced my first husband, and at that time I started working at the mental health center, and I was working in the sexual abuse unit for 2.2 seconds because it was too much. It was too draining for me. And that's when I made up in my mind that I was going to devote all my time to my children. Now, don't get it wrong. Stacy D wasn't going to be by herself. But as far as me having a man living in the home with my children, I wasn't going to do that. I was going to try to give them the best life that I could give them. And the men that I were dating, which guess what? It was King. He understood the whole point about I don't feel comfortable. Not that I thought that he would do anything to my children, but I never, because I am the protector over my children. And I never, like you said earlier, I never wanted to put my sons or my daughters in that position where they might have felt uncomfortable or something sexual or physical or something like that would happen. And my children really do appreciate that. They really do appreciate that from me, that they never, once again, they never had to fight for my love from a man. Now my children are they are grown. And at Christmas time, they count up how much I spend on me. The grown kids. They counting up how much. Mama spent $20 more on me, so now they don't get no presents. But my kids are just they're very jealous of. They're very jealous of each other. One say I do more for this one say I do more for that one. And I have 4, 2 boys and 2 girls. And it's hard. It's really being a single mom is trying to divide that. Have time for your free time and your pleasure, because we're not meant to be alone. When God invented Adam, he took the rib and did Eve. So we're not meant to be alone, because he was sad and he was depressed because he was by himself. But it's hard. If I would not have married anyone that my children did not get along with as children. And actually, you know what? I really probably wouldn't marry them even by them being grown, because evidently they must see something in them that I'm not seeing. And I will go and talk to them and say, what is the problem? What's going on? Now, on the man's side of it, I think it's on that man to be the head of the household and to bring it in and see what's going on with it. Just to be a man who's like, just like I did. What's the problem? We're going to be a family, get it together. Because we have a blended family of 8 children. 8. I have 4 and King has 4. And all of them get along pretty good.
That's great.
Yeah.
And you touched on what is frequently presented by the kids in these situations is this person is taking my parents' attention. My parent is now, from their perspective, is neglecting me. I'm not getting as much attention because they chasing love and wanting to get married and da-da-da-da-da.
And say that again. They're chasing love. Because if a man, and I'm just taking it from a woman's point of view, if a man really wants you and he see that there is some animosity going on with the children because, they're there, if they really the one for you, they're going to wait. And they're going to understand and they're going to wait.
Right. And that's oftentimes the question I have is, why didn't you all just wait? Because if you are so sure that this is happily ever after, why was it so imperative and important to bring this person into the house now? And for me as a therapist, I struggle more when it's the parent who does not like the kids. Because the kids, they're immature. They're kids. We've talked about it. Their brain isn't fully developed. But when I sit in the office with a couple and I hear a step parent just say, I don't like them kids. I don't like them.
I wouldn't have been able to be with him. No matter how good it is, how good a provider he is.
That's hard to hear.
I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Or he'll be gone.
That's what I have struggled with. And I remember years ago, one stepmother, she was at constant war with this child. And in a lot of the instances, the child was actually right. And so I would have to meet with the couple without the kid present to ask her, why did you do that? Like, what made you think that that was okay for you to do? And she just had a meltdown one day and just said, I don't like him. I don't like him, okay? But that doesn't mean you get to engage in what is essentially some abusive parenting because you do not like him and you knew he was a part of the package when you married this man. And so people have to really like think about that. This does not tend to go well. So, listeners, if you are in a relationship, you're thinking about marriage, and you guys are trying to sort this out. If your loved one does not like your kids, the kids don't, save yourself the torture of what's going to happen after all of you are in that house together.
And then we also have to worry about those blended families, because a lot of time it's the other parent, the parent that's not there, that are feeding the other child the hatred, the jealousy, that is putting that wedge in there, and a lot of times that's on the other parent to go back and say, hey, to have a talk with that child. What has so-and-so done to you that you're not liking? But mind you, I have had some girlfriends who were stepmothers, and they were terrible stepmothers. Terrible. Okay. Terrible stepmothers. Basically, how you said the story was that they did not like the kid, or they didn't want to be bothered. This is funny. That their children were grown. He had younger children, and they just didn't want to be bothered. Well, that was not the one for you then, because they still have younger children.
And they should have thought about that before entering into that union. For those situations where the kids, their underlying issue with the step parent is because their other parent hates the, mom or dad's new spouse, those are situations that we can usually work through in therapy prior to people getting married. Because that's what I'm saying. Once the marriage is done, the prognosis for working through this is drastically reduced. But if couples come in prior to getting married and saying this is the issue, it does allow the therapist time to work with the kid on not harboring their other parents' resentment against this person who's about to marry, their mom or dad, and helping them, as you just said, to step back and think about, well, what has this person done to you? Because I have a young adult client that I'm seeing who does not like the woman that her father is about to marry. And I asked that question, what did this woman do to you? Her response was, well, she was just too nice and too sweet. It was fake. It was fake that she was nice to you? Because to me, that means that you deep down inside deserve to be treated like crap. And for this woman to be nice to you, it must be fake. So you're horrible. Well, I'm not horrible. How is it fake that this woman was sweet to you? And that was her response. But it's really rooted in, I don't want my daddy to get married. In her case, she's territorial. I don't think it's coming. Yeah, I don't think it's coming from her mother.
Wow.
It's her. And so she talks about, well, I don't want her taking advantage of my dad, and she's going to take my daddy's money. She's going to spend on my daddy's money, and he doesn't have a lot of money. But it's like, this woman was sweet to you. She has her own money. She don't want your daddy's money. She got her own money. But that just goes to show, even if a person is being nice to the kids, they can end up disliking you for being nice.
For being nice. I actually have I had a family The mom, she was young. She had 2 children already, 2 boys. She met a nice suitor. Remember that word? Met a nice suitor.
Nice.
What
suitor.
she thought was a nice
suitor. They started courting.
They started courting. And they got married. He never really liked her 2 children. He didn't have any children, but she had two young men. And she was a very easygoing, and he's more robust and rowdy. She had 2 children by him. They got married. She had 2 children by him. He literally treated her children like so bad. Well, he treated her bad too. But the 2 children that they had together, they were good as gold. So the one of the boys went to go live with their father, but the other son's father, you know how that is sometimes, he wasn't ready to take him. Mm-hmm. This young man, good young man, great in school, did everything he was supposed to have been doing, just really tried to, to make his mother happy. And he has really turned out to be almost a disappointment. He's strung out on drugs, and it's because of him not being, and I talked to him, and it's really because of him just trying to deal with how bad he treated him and how bad he treated his mother. And then guess what? He told me he felt like his mother didn't stand up for him. So he loves his mother, but he hates his mother. And he says the reason why he do the drugs is because it takes him to a happier spot. He doesn't feel. Mm-hmm. So that situation, and I put it on the mom. Sorry, it's your fault because you're supposed to be the protector of your child. Yeah. Her son's a drug addict because of this.
And the son is right. She did betray him.
Yes.
And because it is a feeling of betrayal. Like you chose someone, because this is a whole nother category. This question was not presented by someone where the step parent is abusive. But now that you have opened up that whole can of worms, in a lot of these situations, the step parent is abusive and the parent turns their head and acts like they don't see it, they don't notice it, because they want to hold on to their spouse. And you're right, it does leave those kids feeling betrayed. Like you allowed this person to abuse me. And I have had cases where it was a sexually abusive situation, which goes back to what you were saying before. When your kids were underage, you just wasn't taking chances that they would even be worried that something like that would happen.
Yeah, I'm taking it all the way off the table. If something like that happened, it's not going to happen in my 4 walls, and I'm probably going to catch a case.
Right.
Not even going to laugh about it. I'm going to catch a case. And I'm also just like that about my grandchildren.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So it's going to be premeditated.
Well, and it's sad how often that happens, where, the kids are being physically or sexually abused by the step parent. Sometimes the biological parent will say, I really did not know that this was happening. I really did not know. And so I
changing or nothing, you will
miss all the signs. And I have
because you're blinded. You don't want to see the signs.
Right. And because they want to hold on to their spouse. And I've had adults come in who are still struggling, like the young man that you just described, who are still struggling with abuse that they experienced at the hands of a step parent, and how horrible they feel that their parent did not protect them, and claim to not know, or they did know and they did see it, but they didn't leave. And when I'm seeing these adults, and I'm talking adults in like their 40s and 50s who are coming in to say, I want to confront my mother on this, not the step parent. Not that they're not going to confront the step parent, but they are more hurt by the parent because it's like, you betrayed me by not protecting me. And so they'll come in to work on, how do I confront this issue with my mother, because I've been holding it in for so many years, that this person that they fell in love with and married abused me and my siblings. And we address it and we work on it. But it is, just in thinking about it and the broad range of ages that I see people in who are still struggling with
that trauma
and issues from a step parent relationship that went desperately awry. It is just not worth it.
It's not. For you to mess up a whole individual, for you to have some pleasure when you can just wait a little while.
Right.
If they're worth it, they're going to wait on you.
Right. All right.
Mr. Walker, have my children called in yet? One of them at least.
Your kids do not want this kind of trouble. Your kids are like, I'm not calling into that show.
I'm not dealing with my mama. Wait, my phone's gonna be jumping at 3:00. Mama.
All right. Stacy D, really quick. Our next segment, modern parenting. This is a short, quick question. How do I handle it that I just found out that my biracial kids are passing for white in school? Here's the background. Parents, found out that their kids who are biracial, who, by the way, do not look white. We're not talking Mariah Carey, Meghan Markle, okay? I don't even know how they passed. To be totally honest, like, how are they passing? What kind of dumb kids are they going to school with that do not know what Black folks look? It's a school district with plenty of Black people in it. But the question is, as a parent, how do you handle it if you find out that your kids are passing? That's the old school term, passing for white, intentionally.
Is their mother Caucasian?
One parent is Caucasian, the other parent is African American.
Is the mother Caucasian?
Yes. And so here are my thoughts on it. This is a situation where the parent needs to sit, both parents, because the Black parent obviously
identify with both race.
Right. And the white parent who chose to marry a Black person obviously is okay with Black folks. The people struggling are the kids. And so my suggestion in this situation is sit down with your kids to get to the underlying root of why they feel a need to pass. What is it about being Black that they are struggling to accept? Yes. And I think that we have to take a look at what plays a role in kids stepping back and saying, it's rough being Black. We got the problem with police officers killing Black folks. We have a country that elected a blatant racist. Okay, we have insurrections at the Capitol by the former president's followers. I mean, there's not, I can understand kids deciding it would be easier for me to pass for white, but I still think that the parents need to sit down with them and strike a balance, help them to strike a balance and help them to see that being African American is not just the horrors that are going on in the world right now. And instilling racial pride in your children requires, teaching them about their history and, where they come from and the contributions of, Africans, African Americans, people of color, like all of that needs to take place so that when they think about their Blackness, they're not only thinking about, oh my God, I can't afford to get pulled over by the police, or I can't afford this or that, or all these horrible things that are going to happen to me because of the color of my skin. And so this is something for all parents, not just parents of biracial kids, but this is something for all parents to think about. All parents need to work on instilling racial pride in their children. Black History Month alone is not enough. And schools are not teaching enough Black history even during Black History Month. Parents have to accept responsibility for teaching their children about their history and their heritage all throughout the year so that they can be proud of who they are, because all people should be proud of who they are, whether they are Black,
so that's
white.
Just going to letting your child understand their self-esteem and their self-worth.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have that, you can be purple.
And this is a sign of some self-esteem issues.
Yes, it is.
To even feel like you need to pass for white.
Exactly.
So that's modern parenting.
That actually happened a little bit with my granddaughter, because she goes to a predominant white school, and she was really calling herself Princess Drea, because guess what? She was the prince. She is the princess.
Mm-hmm.
She's the princess. And one of her classmates told her, because she came home and was telling me and my daughter, that one of the classmates said, you cannot be a princess because there are no princesses that are Black.
Wow.
So that was one of her first history lessons, like in kindergarten or first grade. We went all the way to the African princesses and queens and showed her all of those. And then we even went to Disney. Mm-hmm. I mean, we just showed her to love your color, love your complexion, love you. And I was like, girl, they're going to be jealous regardless, your honey is.
But that's exactly what I'm saying that parents need to do. Mm-hmm. Take something like this as a sign that you might need to step it up a little bit with regards to teaching your children who they are and that they are much more than what any racist might say that they are. Teach them who they truly are.
And just loving on them.
Yes. Yes. Which is at the heart of instilling healthy self-worth and self-esteem.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Wow.
All right.
Did another good one, JP?
I think we are good for today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And remember, worry about nothing.
And pray about everything.
Thank you. God bless and take care.
Bye-bye now.